What the heck is ArtFight? Let me fill you in on everything you need to know. Hello Acolytes, welcome back to After Plague, and July has come to an end. This year you might have seen some people talking about an event called ArtFight, and I've seen a ton of comments that say something along the lines of, I don't know what ArtFight is, and at this point I'm too afraid to ask. Let me be your ArtFight guide. And you're gonna want to stick around because some of the controversy in the history of ArtFight is actually crazy. But we're gonna start simply. What is ArtFight? I've seen an uptick in interest on mainstream social media platforms like TikTok and Instagram about ArtFight this year, and the number one thing I see people asking is, what the heck is ArtFight? It sounds a little crazy in concept, but it's pretty simple. Once a year, for the month of July, ArtFight is an event that runs on artfight.net. Artists post reference sheets of their original characters, or OCs, and then other artists draw those characters. Pretty simple, right? How does it work? To get a little more specific, about a week before the start of the event, artists hop onto their accounts and will be prompted to join one of two opposing teams, or they can choose to join the event as a spectator. Spectators can still participate by drawing artwork for people, but there will be no points calculated based on their artworks. This year's teams were Team Seafoam, which is the team that I am on, and Team Stardust. Now, I'm stupid, so I thought that the teams were supposed to be what you based your OCs on, but that is completely not true. You can use the same OCs year after year, and generally that is what people do. The theming is just a fun little bit of detailing on top. So you join up with your team, but if one team has way more players than the other, when the event starts and you try to join after the event start, you will be assigned more often to the team that does not have that many players. Unfortunately, this does sometimes mean that one team has a huge advantage at the start of the month. That did happen this year. Team Stardust had a massive amount more players than Team Seafoam did, and so they managed to get an 80,000 point lead right off the bat, and they maintained it for pretty much the whole month, so there was never really any tension this year in terms of point values, which is a problem I'm sure that the ArtFight team is looking into solving. What are points? I've mentioned points. How do you get points? Players can attack other players on the opposing team by creating art of their OC. What's really cool is that this art can take basically any form. It can be a drawing, a painting, an animation, a crocheted plushie. I even saw someone this year making jewelry arrangements based on people's characters. That's so cool, that's so unique, I love it. The attacker receives points for the attack, though the amount is variable. These are also not assigned by a person, like a moderator, but instead you get a certain number of points based on a rubric automatically. Essentially, you self-grade your own artwork and are assigned points based on what you grade yourself as. For example, a full body illustration gets more points than a bust up illustration, a fully rendered illustration gets more points than a sketch, and backgrounds will earn you extra points as well. The player that submitted the artwork will get one attack on their stats, and the player who was attacked will get a defense. That terminology isn't used as much as attacks, so if you haven't heard it before, don't be scared. I will hold your hand and we will get through this together, I promise. Now, as the person who has been attacked, are you just gonna sit around and suffer this great indignity? No. You are going to get revenge. A revenge is an attack specifically in retaliation to one you've received. It's generally good form to revenge the people that attack you, sort of as a thank you for attacking you, but it's not required. None of this is required. It's not school, obviously. You can also attack people who are on your team. This is called friendly fire. This does still earn points for your team, but it's a much smaller amount than if you attacked your opponents. It's 20% of the points you would receive for attacking an opponent, so you're more incentivized to attack the opposite team. As a player, you have a battle ratio. A high battle ratio means you created more attacks than you received, and a low battle ratio means the opposite. You received more attacks than you created. Those with a high battle ratio are considered dangerous threats and are often targeted by the other team. At the end of the month, the team with the most points wins. This year, again, has been a little unexciting because Stardust has been in the lead since the very beginning of the month, and they have not moved out of position. Seafoam is doing their best, but I don't think they have succeeded. They're currently, as of the creation of this video, as of this voiceover I'm recording, the moderators are going through, they're double checking that all of the point values are proper, and then they will declare the winner. But I think, in my very first art fight, I will be a loser. And that's a-okay by me. How did all of this start? ArtFight has been around for a lot longer than the general internet has really known. I mean, I've been pretty chronically online for the last 10 years, and I only heard about ArtFight last year. However, the event has been going since 2007. Back then, it was just on a small forum with only a very few participants, and it didn't really have the structure that modern ArtFight does. It was kind of just a group of friends making art for each other with no point values or moderators or anything like that. In 2013, one of the forum users by the name Chronic Artist developed the first iteration of the ArtFight website to bring the event to a wider audience, but she left the project shortly after due to personal circumstances. From there, the website died, though the concept was continued on a different forum site by user Takaya until 2016. ArtFight.net was born. Currently, the website is owned by Axel, Classic Turtle, and Rainy as of 2023, which is very recent, as you might notice. More on that a little later. Chronic Artist is still around. She has characters on her profile on the current iteration of ArtFight and has received a few attacks this year, but she doesn't seem to be a very active participant. The last time she signed into the website was December of 2023. Takaya hasn't chosen a team this year and has chosen to participate as a spectator, which of course is allowed. No attacks or defenses on their account this year. More on them later as well. Axel is on Team Stardust and they've received 17 attacks and sent out 2. Classic Turtle is on Team Seafoam and she's attacked 3 people and has been attacked 21 times. Rainy is also on Team Seafoam and she's been attacked 13 times and sent out 1 attack. ArtFight has expanded a ton over the years with hundreds of thousands of participants now. The surge to ArtFight.net during the week before and the first week of the event is genuinely insane, and often it crashes the website for hours or days at a time. A lot of ArtFight veterans warn newer players that the site is basically unusable for the first couple days due to traffic, so if you want to participate in ArtFight, be aware of that. What has my experience been like so far? My experience with ArtFight has been odd. There's a bit of an expectation that I and many others had going in about the frequency of attacks received. I would say that I was expecting more, and I thought that I would be very busy this month revenging attacks. That wasn't really the case for me. I didn't receive my first attack until July 14th, halfway through the event, and it was by my friend Chris Carroll. He was also on Team Seafoam, so it wasn't even an attack from a rival team. Of course, I was extremely excited to receive art from Chris. He's very talented and the attack was amazing, so of course I revenged him. I can admit that I was partially to blame for my experience. It was taking me a while to finish all of my own attacks, so I hadn't been able to engage with the community at all. There is a system for people to see your characters through random chance, but beyond that, my chances of being discovered were extremely low. There's around 500,000 participants in total, around 250,000 per team. They haven't released the official numbers this year, so this is a guess based on years past. And most people have more than one character on their profile. I have 4, so that means there is a 4 in 750,000 chance of someone stumbling across my characters by using the randomize feature, or 1 in 187,500. That's incredibly small. It's no wonder people weren't finding my reference sheets. Additionally, ArtFight actually doesn't have a way for you to search on their website. You can browse both users and characters, but there is no search function. So I was telling people all month, because I'm dumb and I didn't know how this worked, I was making TikToks and I was telling people, this is my account, look me up and attack me. There's no lookup function. What was I thinking? I didn't realize. I was like, maybe I'm just stupid and can't find the search bar. But no, people couldn't even find me that way. They have to go through direct links, which is frustrating. It's a frustrating experience. So if you are going to participate in ArtFight next year and you're not social media famous, I believe that the majority of your attacks are going to come from revenge. You need to put in to get out. For myself, this was difficult. Art is kind of inherently a solo, introverted activity, but to be a successful artist, you can't really stay in your bubble forever. Whether you're wanting to do design-centered artwork, gallery-centered artwork, social media artwork, you need to actually interact and be social. It goes against a lot of the natural instincts we have as artists to stay isolated, and I kind of wanted to do the same thing for ArtFight that I do in real life. Wait for someone to approach me first. I love getting adopted by extroverts. It's the only way I can make friends. In that way, I really appreciated that ArtFight forced me to initiate contact. Everyone I attacked was so kind about my art, and they all had such wonderful things to say. Plus, 66% of the people I attacked ended up revenging me. So that is how I was getting my artwork. I put in, and that is how I got out. I understand the initial impulse to feel upset about people not attacking you. I questioned if my characters were good enough and interesting enough to draw. I wondered why no one was attacking me. I've seen some people on TikTok complaining that they're not getting any attacks, and I've seen people arguing back that ArtFight isn't a free commissions website. They're right. ArtFight is a community building event. It's not about whether someone draws your OCs, though you do have a right to be upset if you get no attacks. It would hurt to go to a community event and be ignored. But if you're at a community event, you're not expecting to talk to everyone in that room. You meet a couple people, get to know them, and enjoy the time you spent. That is what ArtFight is supposed to feel like. So I'm very honored for the amount of attacks that I got. I was very grateful. Speaking of TikTok, let's talk about ArtFight in the era of TikTok. Some ArtFight veterans are noticing a shift in people who are participating in ArtFight due to the event's promotion on TikTok specifically. As anything gets bigger, you're going to get more people coming in who don't understand the spirit of the event, and that's seemingly been happening with ArtFight as well. One of the weirder things that's been going on this year is artists have been creating DNIs, or do not interact lists, which can sometimes be useful for creating adult or teen-only spaces. But anyone who has been on Tumblr can tell you that some people's DNIs are literally so insane. Look at this. What do they mean? What does this mean? Speak quote-unquote French? I don't know what you want. What is quote-unquote French? ArtFight rules actually disallow DNI lists, except in the case of creating a minors-only/adults-only space. So if you're an adult and generally you draw not safe for work, or generally you draw gore, or you just don't really want to interact with kids on the internet, you can create minors DNI. If you're a minor and you're more comfortable participating with people who are your own age, you can put adults DNI. But beyond that, you can't put like DNI if you ship, I don't know, Steve Rogers and Bucky Barnes from the MCU. That's like actually what people put on these lists. And it's crazy, and it creates a really weird, isolated, toxic environment. And it starts to get into arguments with the whole pro-shipper and anti-shipper thing, which I'm not going to get into. But it's weird, and it's been brought on by the TikTok audience, I guess. Additionally, while this is an art competition, it's also not a competition. There's a bit of playful framing of points and stuff, but ultimately the game is about creating community and gifting art to others. It's like Secret Santa. It's not a competition. New fighters are more engaged with the competition aspect and are more serious about points and winning. Some users were also caught cheating this year. It's not allowed to draw attacks before the start of ArtFight, and it's also not allowed to trace, use bases, which are like little stick figures that you can draw over top of, here's a picture, or use generative AI. Obviously not allowed. There's also been some really weird, unsportsmanlike conduct this year. For instance, a Stardust artist on TikTok was joking about drawing the OCs of Team Seafoam pregnant. Whether that's a fetish thing or just the continuation of that joke that artists have the ability to draw mpreg, it's still super uncomfortable for a lot of people, and it kind of fucks up the game. Imagine being excited to receive an attack only to see that. It's uncomfortable. It's uncomfortable. I think it was just a joke. They said it was just a joke in the caption, but still, that is a bit unsportsmanlike. The TikTok art community is also an absolute nightmare. Oh my gosh, I should make a video on the TikTok art community, but there's a new controversy every 5 minutes. The video would never end. It's insane how harshly TikTok treats beginner artists, or even just artists with a specific style. There have been multiple beginners who have been harassed off the platform due to the massive amounts of bullying they're being subjected to. People are also just acting ungrateful to be receiving attacks from artists that they don't consider good artists, and some have gone so far as to say in their bios that they do not want attacks from beginner artists, or artists that are making work on traditional media instead of digital media. Come on, that's just sad. It's supposed to be fun. Why aren't you having fun? Have fun. Have fun, damn it. I specifically requested people have fun. Well, I guess speaking of fun, let's move into some interesting controversies that ArtFight has had over the years. I'm kind of gonna go from least serious to most serious, so just be aware that as we go, things are going to get worse and worse. So let's start with Wormy Night. I would not call this a controversy exactly because it's pretty silly. It was 2019. The theme was Dream versus Nightmare, and as the end of the event approached, Team Nightmare was trailing by a meager 1,000 points. It was an extremely close game, but a last-minute attack changed everything. User Sunmini had been slaving away at their computer for 3 days, and they had finally completed their magnum opus, Wormy Night. It was beautiful, stunning, a recreation of Van Gogh's Starry Night made entirely of worms. He was drawn 3,296 times, each detailed with dual-toned fur and pupilled eyes. The illustration was massive, and originally it needed to be uploaded in 3 separate parts to add in each character. The attack was scored at a stunning 16,651.39 points, which is the most points ever earned in a single attack on ArtFight. And with this tremendous last-minute attack, Team Nightmare surged ahead, leading to victory. Where's the drama? Well, some people believe that instead of painting each worm individually, Sunmini simply made a custom digital brush of the wormy, leading to a huge decrease in effort and time spent on the illustration. This was proven to be false. Even if you individually zoom in on the illustration, you can see that each worm is unique and was individually painted. Others argued that you should not be allowed to tag a character so many times in a single attack, which led to the mod team ruling that you can draw a single character more than once in the same attack. There was a character limit, however. The most number of characters you can tag in a single attack is 499, so many users felt that splitting the attack into multiple pieces to score more points wasn't fair. I would argue that they still drew the character 3,000 times, and they should get credit for drawing the character 3,000 times. Another controversy was about the fact that it was a worm on a string, based off worm on a string, photo of worm on a string right here. I believe, based on some things that I was reading, this is kind of hard to hunt down information about, but I believe that simple shaped characters at the time were technically banned, though even if that's not true, they are worth less points than humanoid or feral characters. In 2016, I did find a news post on the ArtFight website that said that blobs were allowed, but they were to be scored as a head or bust rather than a full body, and I believe that Wormy Night was scored as all full bodies, so I don't know if that was causing some controversy as well. There are also rumors that people complained in the ArtFight Discord and harassed the artist so much that they had to take down the original version of their post. I can't confirm that. I can't find anything in the Discord from that long ago, but I can say that the comments under the currently available Wormy Night post are disabled. Wormy Night has gained a bit of notoriety and is legendary in the ArtFight community, despite all of the controversy. Oh, and the worm? His name is Maximilian. Wormy Night has maintained its status in the community, and others have followed in its footsteps. In 2020, ArtFight user Reese submitted The Weem, or The Worm Scream, as a parody of The Scream by Edvard Munch. This illustration included 2 full-body figures and an impressive 403 worms. The attack received 3,301.15 points, though rumors say that initially it was scored higher. Some sources say that the initial point value was around 9,000, but backlash led to the drastic reduction. Whatever the case, worms have caused their fair share of controversy in the ArtFight world. The milk bomb. So this is all secondhand information. I couldn't find any of this from a primary source, so I apologize if this is incorrect. This information all comes from Reddit user Dark Electric on a comment on the hobby drama subreddit. I couldn't find any first-hand information. I really tried, but what the heck is the milk bomb? There was an ArtFight user named Milky Bommy who was in the process of making a massive animation attack that was getting everyone absolutely hyped. Animation attacks are worth a lot of points, so people assumed this would lead to a huge jump in their team's points and get them a huge lead in order to get to victory. I think the creator was live streaming when they posted the attack, and then it turned out to be a massive friendly fire attack, which meant no points went towards attacking the opposing team. It was eventually updated that friendly fire would give you 20% of the points that you would get from attacking the opposing team, but at this time, it got you nothing. At this point, due to all of the controversy and all of the people being mad that this was friendly fire, Milky Bomby switched to being a spectator, so no one got any points. People were pissed. Unfortunately, I couldn't find any footage of the milk bomb. The video was no longer available on YouTube, and ArtFight's system for searching people, as I have mentioned, is total trash. I managed to find the user, but they are very active. Over all of the time that they have been on ArtFight, they have done 143 different attacks, and I don't know what I'm looking for in terms of the milk bomb. I don't even know what year it was. So I can't go through all of the attacks to figure out which one was the one discussed. I'm sorry. That is the end of the milk bomb. Whitewashing. This is going to be such a small section of the video. Artists, especially digital artists, it's really not that hard to not whitewash someone's character. You have an eyedropper tool, my guy. There have been multiple instances of artists attacking people with POC characters and whitewashing them completely by both removing their melanin and removing any of their non-white features like textured hair. Don't do this. It's super easy to not do this. It's so easy to not do this, okay? Don't do it. Random drama. Okay, this is gonna be a weird one because I have no context for this. I just felt it was incredibly funny to mention, if true, okay? On June 19th of 2019, the ArtFight Twitter account tweeted about one of their moderators choosing to draw something off-site that they would be addressing. I can't confirm that this is true, but this mod may have been participating in illegal activity. They replied to their own tweet saying that illegal activity off-site was not allowed. Then they clarified that the moderator was not or might not have been participating in illegal activity. It was very confusing. The only comment I could find about the situation describing what happened was that the mod was drawing sexualized illustrations of the cats from the Warrior Cat series. If true, that's hilarious. What do you mean that's controversy? That my guy was a furry? I'm sorry, that's so funny. Is that true? Please, if you know anything about this. I went through their Twitter like a month after they posted this. They never confirmed. I could not find any further updates posted to the ArtFight Twitter account. Please tell me if you know about this. Which mod? Link what they were drawing. I want to know. Please. Unknown spy. So this is a bit confusing, and I'll do my best to try to explain it in a way that makes sense, okay? YouTube animator Unknown Spy created a 52 character mass attack for ArtFight 2022, but didn't label any of the OCs used in the attack. It's a little complicated again, but rather than drawing someone else's OC, Unknown Spy designed 52 new OCs and would be giving them away to the people that essentially volunteered for this attack. However, she didn't label which OC belonged to which user. So she didn't label like OC1 belongs to user A, OC2 belongs to user B. Get it? Users waited over a month for the attack to be properly labeled, but Unknown Spy wouldn't respond to any messages. She was active on other social media at this time. In the end, the situation was resolved to the dissatisfaction of many. The owners of ArtFight decided that the attack was void in terms of points, but rumor had it Unknown Spy was going to sell the artwork that they designed for other people as adopts. If you aren't aware, I know it's getting really chronically online. I'm doing my best. If you weren't aware, adopts are essentially character designs that you sell to other people. So for example, let's say I make a cute little superhero girl OC, but I'm not really planning on using her for anything. I can sell the design to someone who is writing a superhero story but needs designs for like side characters or something. That way, this person has paid for my time designing it and the character gets used. It's essentially selling the rights to your design. This whole situation kind of sucks. Selling characters that are supposed to belong to people. It's difficult to distinguish this from selling other kinds of fan art, but something about it just feels icky, and sometimes that's all you can really say about it, right? The announcement of the voided points also didn't really matter because that year's event had already ended. The attack was worth 1,696 points, but the outcome of the winning team wasn't changed, obviously. The attack also stayed up on the website for 2 days after the announcement was made that the points would be voided until pressure from users in the Discord. Are you ready for a plot twist? Ready for a plot twist? This is a good plot twist. The mod who stated that Unknown Spy was selling the designs as adopts was wrong. Unknown Spy never at any point stated she was going to sell those designs, and as far as I have found, she never did. It wasn't intentional that the mod got this wrong. They weren't trying to spread misinformation. There was a discussion when this whole situation happened about the rules of ArtFight, and there was a topic being discussed about what would happen if a user was selling voided designs and the mod misunderstood. They thought that this was factual information about what was happening. However, that's a pretty bad mistake, especially because it led to further animosity against Unknown Spy. People are generally dissatisfied with the resolution. There is an account on Toy House called The 51 about the people who were a part of this Unknown Spy situation, and they generally believe that if anyone else had done this, they would have been banned, but because Unknown Spy has a social media following, that they got to get away with it, which I can't say one way or another. This is just their opinion. Yeah, Unknown Spy just stayed silent through the whole thing, and the mod apologized on Twitter and on Discord, and that's it. That is the resolution to this situation. The NSFW problem. NSFW is not allowed on ArtFight, but it used to be, and it still kind of is. Mature content is allowed on ArtFight, but only with the proper filters, and NSFW is still not allowed. But what is the difference? Any explicit sexual content is strictly forbidden, but mature content is still allowed. I guess essentially it's the difference between an NC-17 rating and an R rating. Like, you can show a naked person, but you can't show a naked person having sex, I guess. In 2023, it was discovered that profiles listing birthdays that would put them under the age of 18 were still able to toggle their filters to allow them to see all mature content, including explicit content. This is directly on the site itself, but the Discord had a similar problem. There were no adult-only chats, and nudity and sexual artwork was allowed as long as it had a spoiler tag to blur the image until it's clicked on. This was brought up to the mod Air, and they dismissed the concerns, stating that the Discord does not allow any quote-unquote pornographic content, but a topless female character would be allowed. On September 24th, all not safe for work content was banned from the ArtFight Discord server. Another user, Nekras, I believe is how I would say their name, attempted to defend Air in her actions regarding allowing not safe for work content to be shared with minors, and in doing so, they kind of came across as a creep. Let me read you some of what they said. Hi, editing me from the future here. I actually found out some more information about this while I was going back and looking through screenshots. So I think the issue is something that Air said to a user on the Discord. I can't tell you if it's Air because on Discord you can change your username to have like a nickname. So I actually don't know if this is Air or if this is somebody else in the Discord chat speaking to a minor, but they were speaking to a minor about a lost pen tablet, and they said they subject their tablet pen to kink levels of bondage, which is not an appropriate thing to say to a child. Then Nekras, or whatever this person's name is, in trying to defend this moderator or this other user, said that BDSM is not an inherently sexual practice. Additionally, I found this screenshot of a comment where they were, I guess, threatening legal action or saying that this was an accusation or defamation or something like that. I don't know. It's insane. It's insane. It's crazy. I didn't think it was that. I thought that Air was just saying like, oh, you know, it's totally fine to have nude women in the Discord, which is like, yeah, you know, art history, you might be able to argue that, yeah, it is totally appropriate if you're going to take your kid to a museum. You might see that in the same way you might see it in an art Discord server. However, talking about BDSM with minors is bad. That is bad. And yeah, I just wanted to hop in here and say, that is what I found out. Sorry, I didn't find it earlier. I thought I'd hunted down all the information, but apparently not. Anyway, back to me in the past. Enjoy. They said, by the way, I was curious, so I looked into it a little bit. Not safe for work, sexual content, sexually explicit content, and pornography may all seem to have similar meanings, but actually have distinctions that I feel are relevant to said misunderstanding. And I feel it's important to understand those distinctions when looking at some of the screenshots on this thread and how they relate to what is and isn't acceptable on ArtFight. I don't think it's a good idea to actually, when it comes to sharing sexual content with minors, it's like the people that are like, technically the age of consent is 16 in that state. You're creepy. I'm sorry. Don't actually when it comes to, you know, showing sexual content to children. In June of 2023, this issue was finally resolved and minor accounts are no longer able to access not safe for work content. Eesh. That's a rough one, huh? Now for the biggest controversy that has hit ArtFight. Stealing donations. Remember how I said Takaya would come back up? That's now. So up until 2023, Takaya was the owner of ArtFight. The website is kind of like AO3 or Wikipedia in that they rely on donations to keep the website running, but there wasn't a ton of transparency on how donations work. In the middle of ArtFight 2023, Takaya made an announcement about major staff changes, but assured artists that ArtFight 2023 was not stopping and the site was not shutting down either. So what was happening? Well, Takaya explained a little further in Discord. In 2022, ArtFight brought in around $70,000. Half of that went to maintenance costs for the website. This is primarily used for image hosting and web services. $4,800 went to paying Axel, one of the future owners but current moderators, for some art assets for the website, like banners, icons, that kind of thing. After taxes that Takaya owed, $9,000 for the business, there was $24,000 left over for her to take home. Takaya claimed that a good amount goes into savings for ArtFight in case it was needed. I'm a little unclear on whether she actually did take home the rest of the money. She stated that she became physically disabled in the last year and was unable to work another job, so that would lead me to believe that she did take the money and was using it to live off of. ArtFight made an announcement that stated the following. In the past, we've worked very hard to try to be transparent with ArtFight finances. However, because ArtFight does not earn enough to be able to hire an accountant or any other professionals, all estimates were done by Takaya. Due to the fluctuating nature of ArtFight's costs and donations, many of the reports ultimately ended up being unintentionally inaccurate. Takaya tried as best as she could with the resources she had to make it as close to an exact estimate as she could. Because of the inaccuracy, ArtFight's estimations received backlash, some of which was personally directed at Takaya. After considering the sheer amount of time and effort needed to make these, the resulting backlash, the private nature of the amount of people getting paid, and looking at similarly run websites who don't publish this information, we decided it was best to simply stop making estimates/breakdowns. However, to give an idea of how much things can cost, here are some examples of the recent bills we've paid. Please note, this is a fraction of the total we pay for a year. These are individual examples. Image hosting alone for the month of July 2022 cost around $7,200. The web server for hosting the site itself cost around $500 a month. For 2022, ArtFight needs approximately 500 times 12 months, $6,000 to pay for the web server. Again, these numbers do not take into account future site growth, art image assets, the rest of the image hosting costs, and other miscellaneous costs, both planned and unplanned during the year. This is frustrating. ArtFight is essentially run by a team of volunteer moderators and admins, so all of the profits going to Takaya doesn't seem fair. Yes, they own the website, but ArtFight wasn't her idea, and she doesn't do all the work, so assuming she could take home all of the profits is a little insane, especially considering ArtFight isn't a full-time job. The event takes place once per year. Obviously, there's some build-up, some website hosting, some accounting stuff that needs to go on, but I highly doubt that Takaya is doing all that much for ArtFight in like November, you know? Some anonymous Discord users who claim to be moderators of ArtFight say that Takaya has lied about the amount that running the website costs. ArtFight users are inclined to believe this due to the website being basically non-functional for the first week of the event every year. Additionally, there are some safety and security concerns with the payment methods for the donations. There have been attempted hacks towards the website, and users are concerned that their data might not be safe, which is a major concern when it comes to credit card info. As far as I'm aware, as far as I could find, there has not been a successful hack of the ArtFight website, but people are hesitant about donating because of the lack of organization. There's also objectively not enough mods to manage the workload that comes with ArtFight. The admins say that there were 534,352 users in 2022, and only around 20 active staff to manage the high volume of reports coming in from users. 12 quit when they found out what Takaya was doing. Staff had tried to approach Takaya about possibly being compensated for the work that they were doing, but she was adamant that there was no budget to compensate anyone, despite the amount of donations coming in. Most of the current mods stepped down when they noticed the discrepancy, leaving behind only one. Air. Remember Air from earlier, who was arguing that maybe it's okay to show not safe for work content to minors? Yeah, not a good look. They stated they weren't stepping down due to the lack of compensation in general, but instead it was about the amount that Takaya was taking home. So they would be fine with not being compensated if Takaya was also not being compensated as much as she was. Additionally, they were not happy about the amount of reports going unaddressed. The current number of staff could fill a maximum of 15 reports per day per person, but they were receiving a massive amount more than that. Additionally, many reports like those involving illegal off-site behavior could only be resolved by senior moderators, and there were only 2. Some moderation actions could only be performed by Takaya herself, who went on medical leave at the beginning of ArtFight 2023, leaving the moderators to fend for themselves. To really break down how wild the moderation situation was, at the start of ArtFight 2023, there were around 4,000 user tickets. And these can be pretty banal things like updating an email, or serious things like reporting offensive content. One singular admin had access to the whole database of reports, and then they would assign reports to the other mods to complete. Additionally, each violation had to be handled separately. So if a user had 100 traced images on their profile, the mods had to delete each one individually. The site also runs a little like garbage because Pika, another moderator, singularly created it. They have one coder/programmer for the entire website. She begged Takaya to hire another programmer to update the site, but Takaya has denied all requests. She sometimes even ghosted the staff for a month at a time. The mods didn't even have time to vet or train new staff because they were so busy. Donators have also previously been offered rewards for donation amounts. For example, in 2017, if you donated over $100, you would get a commission of your character from a moderator of your choosing, but many of these rewards were not given out to donors. Merch purchases were also not being shipped to customers, and the only recourse offered was through Takaya, who, as we've established, is a bit flaky. Now, I would be more willing to believe this is simply a case of an inexperienced CEO misusing funding if it wasn't for the fact that Takaya has been accused of this exact thing before on DeviantArt. Like, this exact thing. In 2018, Takaya was a co-founder of a project called ArtRise. It was supposed to be a site like DeviantArt, and they crowdfunded through donations. Though she has since been removed as a co-founder, she still has control over the ArtRise Discord server as far as I'm aware. A former ArtRise staff member, Nim, stated that the owners abandoned the project with no word to the audience or donors. The last update to the project was on July 25th, 2023 by Ford, who is not one of the co-founders. He was placed in charge when the others cut and ran. He claims that there was no money ever taken from the donations. Ford has access to the PayPal account to which the donations went, and he states there were never any transactions out of that account. I'm inclined to believe that Takaya did not take any of the money from ArtRise, but the optics are really bad. They're bad, especially considering what happened in ArtFight 2023. Furthermore, upon doing some digging, I discovered that Takaya was being questioned about the donations and being asked for transparency as far back as 2020, 3 whole years before she would step down as the owner of ArtFight. In this post, Takaya claimed that any unused funds were simply being kept in the PayPal account and remaining unused while they were dealing with health issues. They promised that all of the ArtFight funds would be put towards future ArtFight expenses. I am going to state an opinion. This is an opinion. I personally do not think that's true. I think, in my opinion, that Takaya was accessing the money and spending it. I cannot prove it. In my opinion, I believe that this is what is happening. Please don't sue me. I have no money. Staff mishandling. So the staff were being spread thin, and they were prone to mistakes. User BXB777 was banned from the ArtFight Discord server with no explanation, and staff refused to listen as they tried to explain that they were being mistaken for a different person. They were accused of making others extremely uncomfortable in the Discord voice chat and being bigoted towards others. They attempted to appeal multiple times through multiple channels and were left empty-handed and frustrated in the end. In a different instance, a user reported an older user for grooming them directly to Takaya, the owner of ArtFight. The victim was 15 years old, and they were concerned about the age gap with this older user, who was 18. The groomer told them that it was okay as long as they didn't do anything not safe for work. The victim did a very brave thing in getting away from them and reporting them to an authority that could ban them and prevent them from interacting with minors. However, nearly a month after reporting the groomer, there were no updates on actions being taken by the staff. After being effectively ghosted by Takaya, this user reached out to another moderator, sharing their experiences in DMs with the offender, and once again, received no response. They followed up a week later, and the user had still not been banned. The mod informed them that they were not able to ban people on artfight.net, but that they would get in touch with Takaya. This is one of a few incidences of grooming on the site, and moderators have not been very helpful. Certain staff even told one user that they were quote-unquote overreacting about the grooming situation. Bad. It's Sorry. In July of 2021, a user had their character stolen and spoke to a moderator about it. The thief was claiming that the original user was the one stealing, but the innocent user resolved it with the mods and received permission to re-upload their character. Then, a different mod took the character down due to reports. The innocent user contacted the mods again and was told that it would be okay to re-upload it, so they did. Then, 10 days later, the character got taken down again, and the user was issued a strongly worded warning with the threat of a ban. The user brought it up to the same mod they went to before, and the mod said they'd talk to the other staff about it. Nothing was done for a year. The strike was not lifted. The user has received no answers. They reached out to a different mod, and this one said they would bring it up to the rest of the staff. 3 separate times. They reached out, they were like, oh, I'll bring it up. They reached out, oh, I'll bring it up. They reached out, I'll bring it up, and they didn't. The user kept reminding the mod and getting brushed off. It is still unresolved, as far as I'm aware, as far as I could find. So Takaya resigned on July 22nd, 2023, and passed the torch to lead artist Axel and admin Classic Turtle. When the new leadership took over, they were sure to avoid blaming Takaya, which was very generous and mature of them. They stated that as the owner and operator of the site, Takaya was paying herself around $12 per hour for the work she was doing to contribute to the site. I respect the new owners for wanting to give her the benefit of the doubt, but it's hard to trust what she's saying when she's been so opaque about everything in the past. It seems like the new leadership team is doing their best to transition ArtFight into an era of greater trust and transparency. A lot of users are skeptical after the drama that was ArtFight 2023, but we'll just have to wait and see. Pedophilia? Hey guys! Twitter people who are participating in ArtFight. Drawing children in not safe for work situations is not a normal, chill, or sane thing to do, even if they are fictional. I feel like that's pretty obvious, but apparently not. In this tweet from 2021, the official ArtFight account strongly stated that any pedophilia is not allowed on their site, and the replies are full of people excusing drawing child CP? There is some discussion about characters being minor coded, and that does become a bit of a more complicated discussion. A grown woman who is short and has a flat chest is not a child and should not be treated as such. There's also always been the argument on the internet about whether drawing characters who are minors as aged up adults in more mature situations is okay. I'm not sure how I feel about that. It's a little weird to look at a child character and think, I bet they'll be hot when they're an adult. Weird vibes. But there's just so many people in the comment section arguing, it's just fiction. You can sexualize children in fiction. No. Stop that. You guys are creeps. Creepy creeps. Why would you want to do that? You're either trying to disgust people or you're catering to an audience that is attracted to children. Now, for a dramatic reading of some fucked up tweets. Ready? Here we go. Y'all have the right to make whatever TOS you want, but fiction versus reality aside, it's been proven that the majority of child sex offenders are not attracted to minors, so if you're trying to protect their safety, it's a flimsy shield at best. Okay, weirdo. If you are genuinely banning artists from creating fictional, not safe for work content and declaring it pedophilic, this is nuts. Were real children being depicted? Was the content real CP passed off as art? Were minors being given links to not safe for work content? What are you talking about? Very interesting that while the West have stigmatized lolly-cho for a long time and still have the most crime against children. So they're saying because it's Japanese, it's okay. Nice. Good one, buddy. Love that. If anyone here commenting is clear-headed enough to realize drawings are not real children, there's a pin for that. And it's a pro shipper pin. I'm not gonna say anything. Eat pant. You don't care about actual pedophilia, just drawings where, whoa, no one is being hurt. Why would you post this? No. Why do you people have actual brain rot? Brain worms. Your brains are full of worms. Touch grass. Speak to a real person. Stop sexualizing children. This is not ArtFight's fault. But dear Lord, it makes you very cautious about the kind of people that are on their site. I appreciate that they say they have a zero tolerance policy for that kind of thing, and I would like to believe that it is true, and that the people in the replies are not participating in ArtFight, and if anything bad is going on, then, you know, people will be on top of that. But, jeez, the bad news. Okay, that was quite a thing to end on. I don't think ArtFight as an institution is to blame for all of these things, of course. It's not ArtFight's fault that people are being creeps or whitewashing or whatever. I just wanted to highlight some of the crazy stuff I found while researching for this video. I think that the people who are currently running ArtFight are doing their best to make it a fun, safe, and sane event for people of all ages. I can confidently say that my experience so far has been nothing less than exemplary. I have not run into anybody doing anything that they should not be doing. So hopefully it is just an incredibly small part of the website that is getting smaller every day. The ArtFight community is strong and kind and so completely creative, and it's genuinely fantastic that there is a place that we can all come together and share our love of creating and celebrate everyone's unique characters. Some people's work is seriously so unbelievably cool. And to honor that hard work, I actually wanted to go through each of the OCs I drew this year and all of the art I received in return. So I'm just going to do a brief overview of who my characters were this year. Again, I themed them around Team Seafoam, so these are my Seafoam characters. The first is based off a Nautilus. She is an 11-year-old girl, and she is a trader in this city. I don't have a name for it. If you have a name for like a city that sounds like it's by the sea and is filled with sea-type creatures, definitely comment it below. I'm very curious what you can come up with. But I made this design of the character. She's got this big Nautilus shell on her back that opens up, and inside all of the chambers are her cool little trinkets and things that she's selling. She has this big old lens that's in the shape of the Nautilus's eye, and that lens can tell her the true value of an object, but sometimes the lens finds value in things that isn't monetary. Her tentacle skirt is actually prehensile, and it helps her move through the water. That's not what the tentacles do on a Nautilus. Nautiluses actually move through the water by jet propulsion. How cool is that? Wild. But her skirt is actually her body, it's tentacles, and they help her move. She likes to dive deep for treasures, pearls, corals, so that she can sell them later. And of course, she's adapted for diving. She's got gills and eyes that can see even deep under the water. She's probably my favorite character that I designed this year. I'm so pleased with how she turned out. Next up is the Diver. The Diver was definitely the fan favorite for attacks this year. He is the paladin of whatever our sea city is named. He is essentially a protector. He's a very strong man, but a very silent man. He doesn't talk very much. He can dive under the water, but he is one of the few residents of the city that is not actually specifically adapted for the ocean. So he is quite slow under the water. His weighted diving boots keep him on the bottom of the ocean when he wants to be, but he's not going anywhere quickly. He is, however, a tank. He is extremely strong and extremely durable, and he can take a hit. His weapon of choice is his harpoon, and he is very deadly with it. He's extremely good at using it. Next up is the Seahorse. So the Seahorse is the diver's trusted steed and companion. This creature can only be outside the water for a few hours because he needs to take a dip and replenish his hydration. He might look like a cutie, like a softie, but the Seahorse is actually an omnivore, and he hunts and eats fish. His leafy camouflage hides him well amongst the kelp forests. He doesn't belong to the Diver, but the two are close friends, and if the Diver needs to get somewhere in a hurry, the Seahorse is there to help. He's sturdy and strong and can carry the weight of the Diver, which is no easy feat. These leafy things are also not leaves, and they're not used for movement. They are exclusively used for camouflage, which I think is pretty cool. He's based off the leafy sea dragon. Last up is my spookiest character. Ooh, this is the Sea Angel. She's a priestess that roams both the city and the deep waters. She can't see, she's blind, but her horns are extremely sensitive and fine-tuned to her environment. Most people of the city find her deeply unsettling, especially because they can practically see what she's thinking. She doesn't eat in the traditional sense. Instead, her head opens up, and the appendages in her chest rise out through her head, and these sticky arms grab ocean snow as it drifts past her, which gives her vital nutrients. Ocean snow is essentially like if a whale dies and decays, where's the decay gonna go? It kind of just floats through the water. That's ocean snow. So she essentially eats decaying bodies, which is gross, but also cool. The Sea Angel's wings don't work on land. She can't fly, but they propel her through the water, making her very, very quick. No one in the city really knows where her allegiances lie, and everyone fears her imposing presence. So starting with the attacks that I created, I did this attack for Claire Bear Sparkle. This is for their character called Alina Toft, sometimes derogatorily referred to as Thumbelina. Thumbelina is obviously sort of a fairy tale retelling, but this is a like dark fantasy version of the fairy tale. Thumbelina is a wingless fairy who is 2.5 inches tall. She's so teeny. She experiences horrors beyond her comprehension. And so I wanted to put her in a bit of a horrifying environment that still keeps in mind her size. So of course I did this image of her pinned to a butterfly pinning thing. I think that pinned butterflies are actually so cool. I think they're really fascinating, but I imagine somebody that pins butterflies in a dark fantasy world would not be opposed to pinning a different kind of specimen. So I'm really pleased with how this turned out, and I got such a wonderful comment back from Claire Bear Sparkle. She said, "Aw, she's so cute. Your style reminds me a bit of the Rusty Lake series, which is so fun and fitting for her. Thank you for the attack." So I really appreciated the response. This character was super fun to draw. I had a great time, and yeah, I would be super excited to draw another of Claire Bear Sparkle's characters next year. I received 92.5 points for the pinned attack. I received the most points for this one this year because it had a background, it was fully shaded, it was full body. So yeah, I believe this is my highest scoring attack for this year. The rest of them were busts or half bodies. I was attacked by Chris Carroll. Look at this amazing attack I got from Chris. Isn't it fantastic? Isn't it lovely? This is an attack of my character called the Diver. Chris did such a fantastic job drawing my guy here. I think he did so well. And the perspective is insane on this. He even included a background. I'm stunned with the details that he managed to achieve. He got his helmet exactly correct. He included this cute little shoulder epaulet. I don't know anything about armor. I'm dumb and I don't know anything about armor. And he even included the shin guard and everything. He looks so good. I love it so much. I'm surprised that my characters can look this good. So obviously I had to get Chris back. He can't just attack me and get away with it. So I drew Chris's character, Dolores. This is Dolores Puea, I believe is how you would pronounce her name. I loved this OC artwork of Chris's character. It's so impressionistic. It feels so much. I can feel texturally, digitally this painting. It's amazing. But he describes Dolores as a girl who is in her late 20s, but in her mind, she's a little girl. And any sort of attempt to bring her to reality is met with aggression. She has a quote-unquote little sister named Amara, which is the little doll she carries with her, and it influences Dolores's thoughts. Amara, in Dolores's eyes, is the one in control. She's strong, she's smart, she basically controls Dolores. They've both lived through horrible things, and Amara was always with Dolores. She saved her from the evils of their past. Dolores believes that they are stronger together and nothing will ever take them apart. So of course I had to draw Dolores. I think she's very cool. And I had to draw her with her little doll, Amara, her little sister, whispering in her ear. I tried to include some of Chris's painterly technique in the background, and I think that looks really good. I also included it on her dress to bring it down into her chest a little bit and balance the top and bottom halves of the painting. Something else that I think really adds to this image, in Chris's reference, Dolores' eyes are completely scratched out in both images, so I really tried to add this like dark cast over her eyes, and she doesn't have any eye shines, which I think makes her eyes look really flat and really dead. I put in the description of this drawing, what could she be whispering, in reference to the doll, and Chris responded, "They're lying, just like before," which really adds to the intrigue of the story. I'm very curious about that. I loved it, and I thank Chris so much for it. I received 7.75 points for this attack because it was friendly fire, but that's okay. I was just getting back at Chris. Then I received this awesome attack by Salix17 for my seahorse character on traditional medium. I think they did such a good job, and I really love this like flowing water that they included in the background. I also really love that they included like the spines of the seahorse and the flowing of the ribs. I think they did a really fantastic job. They were Team Stardust and they earned 22.5 points for their team. I think it's really fantastic. So really fantastic work, and I'm happy that I got a submission on traditional media. I was surprised to see that. Unfortunately, I did not get to revenge them. I ran out of time this month. I got my last attack done on the last day of ArtFight, so I hopefully will get them next year. So the next attack that I did was on Brass Dragon Lord. Brass Dragon Lord has a character named Kyoko, who is a kitsune type character. I really loved how bright this character's hair was and how bright their tail is. I find that a lot of kitsune sort of lean into the dark hair, white tail. And so having it be colored like a traditional fox is very fascinating. I think it looks really good. This character just has so much style. I kind of regret not doing a full body for this character because of how cool their legs are. There isn't a ton of description about this character, so I don't know much about her personality, but I really loved her design, so I decided to draw her. For this illustration, I did a half body, making sure to include a lot of that bright red, and I even included it in the background. It's sort of supposed to look like she's at a lantern festival, I guess, but I didn't want to put too much effort in the background, so I was tired. But yeah, this is Kyoku. I earned 56.25 points for this attack because it was a half body, fully shaded, fully colored, all that jazz. My favorite parts of this illustration are probably her long black nails and her eyes, because she actually doesn't have any whites of her eyes. That's something I noticed in the reference, that there were no whites in her eyes, which I think is mostly true for fox type animals. You only really see the whites of their eyes if they're surprised or scared. You know, their eyes go really wide. Most of the time when you're looking at like a wolf or a fox, their eye looks completely colored. Then, surprise, surprise, Brass Dragon Lord revenged me, and they did a fantastic job. They also drew the diver. I think he was a fan favorite. I really like his design, so I understand why. I think this is fantastic. Genuinely, I love how people draw his armor. I think it's really cool. The lighting in this image making him look like he's actually in the depths, because if he were gold and he was underwater, which is typically blue in our color vision range, he would actually turn this green color. So I think they did a fantastic job with the color theory here. I also, of course, love the painted bubbles coming up out of his head. That's super fascinating. And everybody makes that spear look super long, lethal, deadly. I love it. 10 out of 10. They earned 70 points for this attack. I think they did such a good job. Next up, I attacked True Tishu, and I love this person's character sheets. They're so good. I love it. I think their character sheets are fantastic. They also include a ton of images of their characters. So I drew this character, I want to say Inés Vitali. I just thought she was so cool. I never draw sort of Western style characters, but she's got almost like this Western punk thing going, which I've never seen before, and I thought it was really fascinating. I also loved how many scars this character has. Fantastic. I decided to draw her again as a half body, and I gave her a little bandana across her face. I wonder kind of if this was the right thing to do, because in the character description, she's described specifically as almost never not smiling, but also within the character reference sheet, she does have a bandana over her face in one of the images. I think this is also a D&D type character because she's described as having a class. She's a rogue fighter. She is a 24-year-old female, mostly human, but there's something about her eyes. They kind of remind you of a snake, and they give her dark vision. So I believe she is a D&D character. She has a ton of scars from a ton of fights. She likes gambling, betting, and as stated, is almost never not smiling. So I earned 61.75 points for this attack. I'm very pleased with how it turned out, and I wanted to sort of draw origin point for some of her scars, so that's why her scars are open and a little bit bloody here. I'm really happy with this one. I think she looks fantastic. I don't know anything about guns. Tell me if the gun is wrong. Definitely comment that the gun is wrong. Tell me. And the last attack I got of this year is from True Tishu. They revenged me. It's amazing. They drew my Nautilus character, and I think that they included so many fantastic details. They definitely were very careful about my character sheet, and they read the details. They did such a good job. As you can see, I mentioned that this character dives for like treasures, and you can see that she's got the little gem and the little clam. I love that they included her eyes being like specially evolved for seeing underwater, and they included all of her freckles. I'm so glad they did, because to me that was really important. They did such a good job. They earned 69.5 points for this attack. So those are all of the attacks and defenses I got this year. I'm so pleased actually with how everything turned out. I feel like I attacked a reasonable amount of people. I got a good amount of attacks back. My battle ratio is a perfect 50-50. So I'm so pleased with that. So that is a wrap on my long art fight video. I hope you learned something. I hope you enjoyed. I am not necessarily trying to make this video with any point in mind. I don't want to say like, don't participate in art fight or do participate in art fight. I just want you to know what it is. I want you to know some of its history, some of the more interesting things I found. There were some things that I would have liked to talk about more, but it's difficult to find sources on some stuff, and I don't love spreading unsubstantiated rumors. I I try to keep everything supported as much as I can, though I have mentioned a few things that I can't necessarily find primary sources on, so hopefully you'll forgive me for that. If you like this video and you want to see more of these like long deep dives, I am very interested in doing these. They just take me a long time to do, so subscribe to see the next one and stick around while I do other stuff on my channel in the meantime. I'm very excited for my next one. I think it's going to be based on a movie. I'm not going to give you any hints. Maybe one hint. It's a movie about food, okay? But thank you so much for watching this long video. If you liked it, please leave me a like. It really helps me out. If you want to see more from me, subscribe, of course. Follow me on all of my other social media to keep up with what I am working on next. I will share sneak peeks with you as they are coming. I am AfterPlague pretty much everywhere. That's Instagram, that's TikToks, that's Goodreads, that's Twitch. I'm live streaming my art stuff on Twitch all the time. Come over there and join me. And I am after_plague on Twitter. I have a book out. I mention this in pretty much every video just because I'm very proud of my book. It's called Corruption and it is on my website, afterplagueart.myshopify.com. Check it out. Let me know if you like it. I would love to hear some reviews of my book. Thank you again so much for watching, and I hope you are doing art in this post-plague world. Bye!